international human rights lawyer and activist Margret Owen. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much for talking to me. I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you. So let's start with the Abdullah Öcalan situation. As you know, Mr. Abdullah Öcalan, Kurdish leader Öcalan, has been held in isolation in prison for 23 years now. He has been denied visits from his family and lawyers. There are now concerns about Öcalan's health and whereabouts. Can you comment on this treatment?
Well, I mean, this is the most appalling violation of his human rights. I mean, this is, his human rights are enshrined in many, many UN international conventions, but basically, even in the 1948 UN Declaration of Human Rights, in which nobody can be imprisoned without a fair trial, and everybody, there are all sorts of other conventions that anybody is in prison has a right to be able to see his lawyer and his family, and that to put a man in solitary confinement for 23 years is the most appalling form of torture. We all know that his kidnapping, abduction from the Greek embassy in Nairobi in February 1999, with the help of Mossad, Israel, the CIA, and the Greeks, with Turkey able to take him and drug him. In fact, he would have suffered the death penalty if it hadn't been at the time that Turkey was trying to get to join the European Union. And so he, where you don't actually allow any country that has a death penalty to become a member. So that, in a sense, saved his life 23 years ago. He hasn't seen his lawyer or his family. We don't sometimes know whether he's actually still alive. So this is the most appalling violation of his human rights, and it is shameful that the international community are silent, including particularly my own country, the United Kingdom, which actually supports Turkey every possible way, through giving it arms, through actually making huge trade deals, which actually regards Turkey as one of its closest allies, a country that is capable of doing.
What is the importance of freedom of Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan and delisting the PKK from a forbidden organizations list?
Well, of course, Öcalan, the father and leader of the Kurds, is key to any peaceful solution, to any dialogue. There can be no proper dialogue with Turkey, anybody else, unless Öcalan is released and able to take part. He's absolutely key to it. And in 2015, he was in peace talks with Turkey, and then Turkey, as you know, we all know, just broke it all off. But also, temporary with that, it is quite wrong that the PKK, the Kurdish Workers' Party, should still be listed as a terror organization. Because absolutely, from 2015, when Öcalan said, stop all the violence, we are here trying to get dialogue towards peace. So they aren't, they're certainly not a terrorist organization. They're not committing any violence at all. And in fact, we were heartened, was it last year or the year before, or last year, that the Belgian Supreme Court did actually take the PKK off its terror list, because they saw there was actually no evidence why it should be on the terror list at all. And so these things go together. But you know, here is a man, Abdullah Ocalan, 23 years in solitary confinement, who somehow, miracle, more than Gramsci when he was in Italian prisons, managed to write all these extraordinary books. I mean, I read his words again and again. As I said in another interview, there's been no man like Öcalan in the history of people, because all the great, whether they were religious or political leaders of history, whether we go back to, you know, Confucius or Moses or Muhammad or Gandhi or Mandela or anyone that we talk about as being great leaders, none of them, like Öcalan, put their real finger on the pulse about what freedom, democracy, and justice means. And he did that by also being the first leader to say that you cannot have a free and democratic society unless you have gender equality and women's empowerment absolutely central. So he actually, his whole 10 ways of his new road to peace were to have society that was pluralistic, secular, freedom of belief, looking after the planet, and also he attacks nationalism, statehood, which actually, of course, fuels the rivalry between states. Capitalism is about profit and it's not about people, and that actually fuels all these wars.
What was the target by taking leader Öcalan as a hostage?
Because Öcalan, actually, in a sense, he's a threat to all the so-called states that we have, because he's actually targeting capitalism and he's targeting sort of statehood and borders. And so in a sense, he's a threat because he out there being able to speak, he will expose the appalling hypocrisy and the betrayal of so many governments to their own peoples and to the people of the world, because he's asking for peace. He's talking about people, human beings, people's rights. He's talking about how we all have to come together. It's also very important in his philosophy about the ecology, about saving the planet, about, you know, real freedom, freedom of expression. And that is a threat as more and more, including, I'm afraid, in my own country, the UK, more and more we have regimes, world leaders who rule in authoritarian regimes, which are often both racist, misogynist, and they're all about profit. They're all about war. They're all about arms, manufacturing, sale of arms.
International human rights lawyer and activist Margret Owen, thanks for joining us. Thank you for your valuable comments today.
Well, thank you. I love talking to you, Erem. Thank you. I feel really privileged to be asked to talk. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.